Hey guys, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd. It is 2:01 p.m. right now. Our scheduled mentoring sessions for 2 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and set up this room real quick and we'll get started shortly with our session once I'm all done with setting this up. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, we don't really have much of an agenda today. We haven't covered anything new, so everything's pretty much the same thing. If there's any examples that you guys want to see, which is probably what I'm going to be covering today, feel free to let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and finish setting up this room real quick, and then we will get started shortly with our mentoring session for this week. All right, that looks good. Let me get this link sent out to you guys here in the premium. That's good. Right, so we are good to go. Let me just give it a few moments for people to make their way in. I'll post this in a few other places before we get started. It was empty for market changeover for the day. All right, guys, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd. It is 2:04 p.m. right now. Our scheduled mentoring session is for 2 o'clock. So I'll just get a few moments for people to make their way in. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't really have much of an agenda to cover today. We haven't covered anything new. We've been doing the same thing for probably the last 5 or 6 months now. So for the most part, I think we're probably just going to be covering examples from, the high-low momentum pullback scalp, and then maybe even the high-low momentum scalp. Because that's mainly what people have been applying, maybe even liquidity pushes, but for the most part, there's not really too much to review. I mean, if anything, it's just going to be examples of the strategies that we're already applying. I think we have a pretty set lineup for strategies that we plan moving forward with. So yeah, if there's anything that you guys want me to cover specifically, feel free to pop into the chat. I'm here to help you guys out. So whatever you guys need help with, just let me know. Looks like people are still joining in, so I'll just give it a few more moments. And then we will get started shortly. Very good. I can figure out it's a good level for my standing desk. After standing today, I kind of messed up my levels. I think this is a pretty high level. I'm gonna save it at that. There we go. Kip said, I'm only staying until I get annoyed. Sounds about right, Kip. Starting to sound like Sisu now. I rubbed off on you. So all right, guys, good afternoon, everybody. Looks like the majority of you guys are here who want to be here, I guess. Scheduled mentoring sessions for 2 p.m. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd. If there's any questions that you guys have that you guys want me to cover, feel free to put them in the chat. If anything, I'll probably just cover entries that came up today during today's session for the most part. If there's any specific day where you guys took a trade and you're not sure, what happened, or if you don't understand what you did with it, go ahead and pop the question. We can take a look at that example. But for the most part, the main strategies or the main strategy that we've been applying is pretty much the momentum pullback scalp. So that's all I can really think to cover, other than liquidity pushes. But liquidity pushes are better to be, they're better reviewed during, actual live session when they happen, because every day is different for the liquidity push. So yeah, if there's anything specific that you guys want me to cover, feel free to pop into the chat. Otherwise, I'll just go over some examples of entries that appeared today. So let me see if there's anything here. Let's see. And I don't even think there was very many entries today. From my understanding, because I only took one entry today, and that was for the liquidity that happened mid-session. But let's just go back to like 6:30 and we'll take a look if there was any entries that came up today. The momentum pullback scalp is a good strategy that we can cover during mentoring sessions because it doesn't require bias, right? Bias is obviously going to be beneficial, but you don't need bias for momentum pullback scalp. That's why it's a good strategy to kind of just use all year round, and something that you guys can test because it allows you to just really go back to any time that you want and you can really test for entry. So for example, if you go back to today, so market opened over here at 6:30. Price came down a little bit. I think the entry already happened here. So we were looking for another opportunity for entry. There was an entry that came up, I believe. So nothing right here because there was news. I think this is the entry that came up like around past 7. So there was an entry that did come up here. I didn't take this entry because it was, I think it was too close to news. And I think the candle was just a little too big. Or actually, this wasn't the entry because we needed price to actually drop a little further down. So the sell signal came up right here. Okay, this was the entry that we were looking at. So with this entry right here, and I think the entry happened like literally at this moment. There was news at 7:30, I believe, and it was getting a little close to it. But this was I think this was the only entry that came up that we didn't actually take. So looking back at the examples, let me go ahead and put the criteria over here for the momentum pullback scalp. So, and I'm going to make some adjustments to this, which I'll probably do today actually, because I'm going to record actually like official videos for this strategy to be put on the course. So let me just look over the criteria. I'll see if there's any way I can make this any easier, more simpler to follow through with, because the criteria here is a little, it's not complicated, but unless you know what we're talking about, you might be a little confused. So I might have to break it down and kind of dumb it down a little more where anybody can understand it, right? I mean, anybody can understand this, but if you don't understand like what we're looking for, like if I'm just specifically referring to momentum and trend, you don't necessarily know what to look for, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to redo the entire criteria. Let's see. Kip said a thought to look at is the pivot scalps still holds true and are great confluence for momentum pullback scalps. Yeah, exactly, Kip. I agree with Kip 100%. If you guys want something that will go in conjunction with the momentum pullback scalps, it would be the pivots, because you guys can see over here, we have a sell signal, trend mirror down below is red, pivots are angling down. This would be an easy identification of direction. And then if you look for a momentum pullback scalp within that move, it's pretty simple. It's like it follows the pivot scalp basically. Like, so if you get a pivot scalp and it plays through and it's followed by a momentum pullback scalp, odds of it hitting are very likely, obviously. So yeah, no, definitely a good idea to pay attention to, what Kip mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and remark. I'm going to go and just redo the entire criteria here. So we're going to call it the momentum pullback scalp. strategy. One, I'm going to, so first thing you want to look for is identify direction of momentum using momentum indicator. Obviously step one. And I'm just going to break it down so it's a lot easier for you guys to identify. Confirm trend is matching direction using pivots indicator. Three, confirm trend is matching direction using trend meter indicator. So that's basically the first step right there. I just broke it down into three different parts. I try to make it as simple as possible, but I think this will be easier so that you guys can have an actual step-by-step process. It's not really difficult when you actually see it in works, but I'm going to make it a little more specific so that we can incorporate like a couple of the things that we've been looking at when applying the strategy. I will be creating a new video for this. I don't know if it'll happen this week or next week, but eventually it will happen. I'll create a new video for this and then also for liquidity pushes, just so that you guys have something to refer back to. I think this is going to be our staple. This is probably going to be our year-round strategy that we'll be applying. We'll probably use it in conjunction with liquidity push, but our official entries are pretty much going to be based around this strategy. So if you want to learn something and master something, it would be this strategy. I don't know how the market's going to move in the fall because we've been applying this during the summer, but if volatility picks up, we're just going to adjust our TP stop loss. Not a big deal, but just something to know. So step one, identify direction of momentum using momentum indicator. Step two, confirm trend is matching direction using pivots indicator. Confirm trend is matching direction using trend meter indicator. And then fourth, confirm directional push in that direction. Fifth, confirm pullback in opposite direction. Sixth, confirm price or no, okay, so this is where I gotta kind of make some adjustments. So confirm price, confirm pullback does not close past momentum signal. So I'm going to try to make this as understandable as possible. Confirmed pullback does not close. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, so I'm going to use this as an example right here. So if you guys here that are sitting, we have a sell signal here, identify direction of momentum. We have a sell signal, identify trend is matching direction using pivots. Pivots are angling to the downside. The red pivot is above all the other pivots. Third, confirm trend is matching the direction using the trend meter. The trend meter down below is red. Fourth, you want to confirm a directional push in that direction. So we have a sell signal here, price pushes down below. And then now going over to the, so let me just go over here. I just want to make sure this makes sense. So as you guys are listening to this, if it doesn't make sense, let me know so I can make adjustments to the criteria. But I think this is probably going to be, and I'm going to show you an example. So directional momentum, downwards trend. We're looking for a push. The push happens here. Fifth, confirm pullback in the opposite direction. So we do have a pullback right here with the green candle. For step 6, you want to confirm that pullback does not close past the momentum signal, right? So I think this here kind of makes it clear that since this candle closes past it, this invalidates step 6. So at that point, you can't move forward. If that's confusing to anybody, just let me know and I'll make some adjustments to it. But I think that's pretty much going to make it as clear as possible, because if that happens, then you got to start back to step 1. and you just go back down the list again. But I think it makes sense in my opinion. In my opinion, I think it does make sense. So once we confirm that, obviously there's no entry here, and then we look for the next opportunity for price to push down again. Let's see, Maria said maybe confirm pullback does not close past momentum signal. Is that different from this, Maria? I just want to make sure, because I think that's what I put. And see, confirm pullback does not pass. Yeah, so I think it means the same thing, Maria. It's just yours is just worded differently. So for me here, the requirement says confirm pullback does not close past the momentum signal. For yours over there, it says close, not past close of momentum signal. So it's pretty much the same thing. I think yours is just worded. The words are just kind of put in a different order, but it pretty much says the same thing, unless it's different. If you think it's different, just let me know and I'll try to reread it again. But I think for the most part, it says the same thing. It's just so for mine, it says pullback does not close past momentum signal. And for yours, it says pullback does not pass close of momentum signal. Okay, yeah, no, if anybody else is confused, guys, just let me know and I'll make adjustments. I think for me personally, I think this makes the most sense, but I could be wrong. So we'll keep that in mind, Maria, moving forward for tomorrow's live session. I'll ask the group again when everybody's here. And if they think we should make adjustments, then, we'll definitely make adjustments on that too. Let's see, another thing over here from Songs are asking, what if the pullback is a doji candle? Wait for an actual candle with body. So I wouldn't necessarily avoid it just because of that. Like a doji, well, depending on the doji, right? If the doji is like this, so you can go over here, that circle, but so if the doji is like this, I would be okay with taking it, right? Like say if this happened and then it was pushed back. But yeah, if it's flat, then for sure you would skip it, because you can't really tell if it's like green or not, right? You can't tell if it's green or it's red when it closes. So it's kind of it's not easy, but like looking back at it, you can see something like this right here, right? You can be like, okay, this is probably red or there's probably green. But when you're watching it real time, you can't really tell, right? A lot of times when that does happen during the live session, we just skip it because we can't really tell for sure if it closed red or green. So you do bring up a good point, Song, but I just don't want to overcomplicate the strategy. Right? I think we could use that as a nuance. So like, I don't want to put it in the actual strategy, but we'll like during live sessions or whenever we see them, we'll just keep mentioning it when it does happen. Because I just want to keep it as simple as I feel like right now it's already kind of overcomplicated for like a new trader because there's so much criteria, unless you actually like are applying it. Because once you apply it, I feel like in application, it's a lot easier to apply and understand versus like if I show this to a brand new trader, like if I show this to your wife, Song, and she's like, what, because there's so many criteria here. I want to keep it as simple as possible so that like a brand new person can actually pick it up. And then we just add other things to it, like overextension, right? I'm probably not going to add overextension to the criteria because I just don't want to overwhelm a new trader when understanding, how to apply the strategy. Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. Yeah, Kip said, I think strategy should be 3 steps with sub-steps. Yeah, no, I agree with that too, Kip. The only problem is we've done that before and it just caused more confusion. So I think each keeping them as a separate step kind of like avoids people, because what happens is, so like, for example, like what you mentioned. So say, for example, here for the trend, right? We're using 2 different criteria, the pivots and the trend meter. So if I do something like this and I say, what do I do? So I do something like this where I say A, use pivots. And then down below, I put be, and I only know this from experience because I've tried this before. Trust me, I try to make it as simple as possible because like even myself, when I used to practice law, our law was like this. We would have law where it does an ABC and it says use trend meter. If I do this right here and I separate them, I already know people are going to say, okay, so do we use a pivots indicator or the trend meter? And we'll say both, or even if I put and here, certain people will still be confused. Though. We'll say and there'll still be confusion, right? So and I'm just doing this from experience. You have a good point, Kip. I would do that because that's typically how I understand how like that's how I would do things as well. But to keep things as simple as possible, I think it's easier to just have separate steps because then in this situation, people can just check stuff off, right? They'll go down the list and they'll say, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. And then they just keep going down the list. So trust me, I would do that too. It's a lot easier to do it that way, but just to keep things as dumbed down as possible where people can just like pick it up. And the thing too is that it's not really dumbing it down. It's like for certain people, like there's people in our group who don't speak like English or they don't read English very well. So it's easier to just separate things versus kind of bunching things together. Yeah, exactly. Kip said yeah, our minds work like it. All sub bullets have to be true for the bullet speed. Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you too, Kip. It's just, Kip's a doctor, so we can't all be on Kip's level with skipping steps here. So, all right, I think that's cool right there. Let me see if there's anything else that I'm missing. Yeah, Casey said fake doctor. He got his doctor's license from Trump University, I heard. joking. All right, so let's just finish off the criteria here. So first step, confirm pullback does not close past momentum signal. And let's go down a little further. After that, okay, if you confirm that there, then now we can enter. So enter at the nearest, I don't know what the term should be for this, nearest, I can just keep it how it is here. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Retracement level. Or I'll do pullback level. I don't know what sounds better, retracement level or pullback level. So enter at the nearest 0, 10. I think pullback level sounds fine because we've been using pullback for the entire, that's what the strategy is called anyways. So like, for example, here price pulls back. And I think that's good. Let me just finish the rest of the criteria and then we'll go over each step and then just make sure it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. Because I want to make sure everything makes sense before I put this into an official video, because it's just going to be more of a hassle for me to redo it later. So enter the nearest 10, TP, set TP to 100 pips. Stop loss at 250 or exit opposite signal closes. So I'll just put a note here. Only one entry for momentum signal. And I'll say take caution if price is overextended. 775, 200 points. I think that's it. If there's anything else that you guys think needs to be added, let me know. But I think for the most part, this is pretty much all that we need. And I'm just gonna rewrite the momentum. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So Kip said enter at the nearest. Decade? Is that what you're referring to, Kip? Nearest decad? I think that's gonna throw people off, Kip, because I don't even know what you're talking about myself. Decad. Yeah, it gives a nerd chat. Yeah, if it's throwing me off, it's gonna throw off everybody else. Daniel said probably easier to just put close this whole number. Yeah, that actually sounds a little better. Closest enter at nearest. Whole number ending in 0. Perfect. There we go. I think that works. Enter at nearest whole number. Yeah, Kim said mentoring and vocab, a good Tuesday, exactly right. So let's see. Enter, I'm gonna try to read it out loud to see what makes the most sense. Enter at nearest whole number, nearest 10. Yeah, because I think whole number is gonna throw people off because so whole number does sound good to me personally, but I think it'll throw people off because they're gonna think every number is a whole number, right? Like 91, 92, 93, etc. So we'll do nearest 10th number. Uh, Tenth number in retracement. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. So like what I think what Kip mentioned probably makes the most sense because I'm just trying to think about like how people will get confused. You know, a lot of things can confuse people, and I think this is going to be probably the most confusing criteria, unless like I show someone the example, which I will be showing an example, but I just want to make sure it's making sense. So let's see, Kip said the nearest whole number ending in 0. Yeah, I think that makes the best sense because that it's just pretty, it's as clear as it gets. So the nearest whole number ending in 0. Ten, 20, 30. Yeah, I don't think we have to go down the entire list, but I think that probably makes the most sense. Yeah, exactly. Kip said he thinks the whole number is necessary. I agree too, because if you're trading like an indice or something, it's gonna have the decimals. Only if you're using like the future YM or even MYM has like decimals. Because we're using the standard lots, it's going to be a whole number, but typically it has decimal points after. Okay, so no, only one entry per momentum signal. What Maria mentioned too. ATR must be 15 or above. And I think that might be it. Let me see if there's anything else here. So I'll go over the criteria again. I think we've covered for the most part. the entire strategy. Let me scroll up real quick. I agree, CC, but got to make it accessible to everyone. All right, so I think this is pretty much it. All right, so I'm going to delete this because this is irrelevant to us now. This is now the new criteria. So, and Maria said it, don't trade on Tuesday. Yeah, trap Tuesday. So looking over here, we'll start off with criteria number one, identify direction of momentum using the momentum indicator. We have a sell momentum right here, so that's going to be step one. Second, confirm trend is matching direction using the pivots indicator. You can see the pivots are angling down. They're the red pivots above all the other pivots. It's in a downtrend. Third, confirm trend is matching direction using the trend meter down below. The trend meter is currently all red, so it's bearish. Fourth, confirm directional push in that direction. So I'm going to do this. Confirm directional push in that direction. Actually, I was going to put confirm directional push in that direction after the momentum signal, but sometimes price will retrace back and then we'll just be looking for another direction. So I think just keeping it pretty open like that is going to make more sense because sometimes the entry doesn't happen right away. Sometimes price will consolidate a bit and then it'll push down. So I'll leave it as is. Confirm directional push in that direction. So we have the directional push right here to the downside. Going over to step 5, confirm pullback in the opposite direction. So price pushes down right here. This green candle is going to be the pullback. And once you confirm that, you go down to step 6, confirm pullback does not close past momentum signal. So the momentum signal is above this line here where it pulls back to. So everything lines up. Once you have this lined up right here, step 7 is going to confirm to enter at the nearest full number ending in 0 or on 0 is fine. On 0. So the entry would happen right here at the 70 mark. Okay, I remember this entry. We were trying to take this entry, but price never pulled back to fill the entry, fill the order. I remember now. Yeah, because price came down right after, and it didn't even retrace up like even a little bit. So that's the main reason why we didn't take this trade. I remember this is one that we were looking for, and unfortunately we weren't able to get in because it never filled the order. So I think that's pretty good. It's pretty solid. Enter at the nearest full number ending on 0. Example 10, 20, 30, 400, or 40. Set TP to 100, stop loss at 25. Or exit if opposite signal closes. Note 1 entry per momentum, ATR must be 15 or above. Take caution if price is overextended. Okay, so I think everything here is fine. If there's anything different that you guys think needs to be adjusted or changed, let me know. But I think for the most part, it looks fine to me. I think everything is covered right here for this specific strategy. This is our main strategy. So, you know, I'm going to put a lot of effort into really making this very simple so that you guys can understand it. You guys learn the most from like actual application though, and actually seeing me do it. So I'll see if I can find an example here, and then we'll try to use the criteria as a follow through. All right, so I think this is an actual entry right here. So, all right, let me go over the criteria. So I think this is the first entry that came up. I can't remember why we didn't take this entry. Oh, because there was news at 7:30. I remember there was news at 7:30. There was an entry here though. I didn't take it because of the news, but we're just going to disregard that. I'm going to go over the criteria. So first, identify direction of momentum using the momentum indicator. There's a sell signal right here. No entry has come up yet. Official entry. Second, you want to confirm that the trend is matching the direction. Using the pivots are angling down, red pivots above all the other pivots. Step 3, confirm the trend is matching direction using the trend meter. Down below the trend meter is red. Fourth, confirm directional push in that direction. So we have a sell momentum right here. Price pushes down, retraces, never fills, drops down further. And this is the directional push that we're looking for. And once we've confirmed that step 4, we move over to step 5. Step 5, confirm pullback in opposite direction. There's a buy candle right here, which pulls back a little bit. Once we've confirmed that, we want to confirm that the pullback does not close past the momentum signal. Momentum signal is way up here. So this is perfectly fine. And then now you would enter at the nearest whole number, which should be right there. TP stop loss is set to 100, 1020 or 1025. And now you just wait for the entry to get filled. Price comes up right there. It looks like it fills. I mean, it barely fills. I remember we watched this during the live session too. It came super close. We didn't take it because news was coming up, but it came up, filled. And even if it didn't fill right here, like say, for example, it didn't fill right, it would have filled right here at this point, and it would have went straight to TP. So even if it didn't fill in that specific candle, price would have pulled back right here, right before the news candle, filled, and straight to TP right there. So I think everything happens right here. Let's see, Kip said, what about the pullback before that one? Are you talking about the one that we were talking about? The one that was right here, Kip? Or is there a different one before that? Or are you talking about over here? Here, Kip, I'm gonna put some numbers over here. And then you can just let me know. Or if you know the timestamp, you can let me know the timestamp. Looks like there's no numbers here, so unfortunately. All right, so we'll do this. We'll do white flag around this area, or open flag, and then we'll do checkered flag around it. Okay, 720. So 720, this one right here, right, Kip? With this one right here, it never filled. So we were looking at this during the live session. Unfortunately, like it never filled. So like we did see this right here pull back. And then we tried to enter, like I had a pending order here during the live session. I put my pending order right there for a sell limit, and price actually never pulled back. So this candle over here dropped, and then it just never filled. So it like literally just went straight down with no retracement. So this right here, we were watching it live. And when price drops, you can see how this candle right here dropped, right, Kip? When it dropped like that, I just canceled it. Technically, I could have held on to it. I could have just left it there. Like I could have just left the order pending, because technically this is still a valid entry. But what happened was we saw the huge red candle that just pushed right here during the live session. Like, okay, it's not going to come back up. I didn't think this big wick was going to come up right here. So when the candle became big, what I did was I just canceled the order, because I was like, this is never going to fill. What happened was price came up right here, and then it technically filled right there, and then it would have went straight to TP. Like if I would have just waited about a minute, it would have came back up, filled, and then went straight to TP. But we canceled it already at that point. But yeah, that was like, this was the official entry that we were looking for today. It just never filled, and we're like, okay, I guess we gotta wait. And then we also had a bunch of other people in the chat. Like I think Maddie was chiming in. He was saying he was going to hold off on it. And then a bunch of other people chimed in. So when people chimed in, I was like, okay, if everybody's going to cancel it, it's probably never going to fill. And then I canceled mine, and go figure, as soon as I cancel it, it fills and dumps right down. So it's all good. It was Trap Tuesday. So what the last thing we wanted to do is get this huge wick right here. It fills and then it completely reverses on us. So better to be safe than sorry, but it would have been a great entry if we held on to it. I think I actually took the trade here though, Kip. So we had this entry right here, and I took it, but I took it as a liquidity push. Actually, no, I took an earlier trade. So there was a liquidity push that happened before that, right here, like 650. I think this was also liquidity too, though. So see 720. Yeah, so there was another liquidity push right here, Kip. So I actually didn't take this one because I just didn't take it, but it was again part of the liquidity push. I took this one over here, but I didn't take this one over here. Yeah, Kip said I would have been in there as a pivot already though. Yeah, exactly. So again, guys, this is this is the beauty of like the strategies that I create for you guys is that they overlap. So like Kip here would be in this entry applying the pivot scalp. So he'd be in the position over here. And then he could use this as a confluence. So like what would happen here is Kip would already be in the position for a pivot scalp. And he would see this retracement right here. And he's like, okay, if this is going to hit, he's just going to hold on to it for even longer. And then he would just double up his profits because he would end up holding on to it for a little longer. And then on top of that, another confluence. So you have a confluence of a pivot scalp, a confluence of a momentum pullback scalp, and then also another confluence of a liquidity push right here. So there's a lot of that. This is basically a triple confluence because there's three strategies in one, right? You have liquidity push, you have a pivot scalp, you have a momentum pullback scalp, probably have a high-low scalp. You know, there's a high-low scalp right here actually. See, you have like four confluences right there. You could have held on to this position like even further down here if you really wanted to. For me personally, I used to trade that way, but I'm a conservative trader. You guys know how I trade. I don't look for these big wins anymore. I could probably look for them, but for my sanity and for everybody's sanity on the live session, because you know everybody would be going crazy if they saw this. Like if I was like, oh, this is a quadruple confluence, of course everybody's going to want to hop into it, and then if it loses, then everybody's going to be an expert in trading, right? Nobody questions my strategies or anything I do if we win, but if we lose one trade in an entire month, everybody questions what I do. It's like I can't do anything right. But it's like that's the thing. So for me personally, for my sanity, for the sanity of the live session, I just go for the 100 pips because it just keeps me sane, and it allows everybody to get in and out of the position, right? I know how to trade, so I could do that if I want. Like I know how to use all of these strategies to like hold on to them longer. But for me to do it on a live session, it's just going to cause so much havoc because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing necessarily. They kind of just want to get in and out of these positions. And it's just, it's impossible for me to please everybody. And I think this way that I trade right now is I'm able to kind of please the majority of the group. And then if you guys become better at trading, you guys can use these multiple confluences to hold on to these positions longer. But for me personally, I'm pretty happy with the way I'm trading because you guys will see like my accounts add up now. Before it was different because if I was taking just one trade and like say, for example, if I was just taking one trade and I only have one account here, then yeah, of course, I'm going to want to take bigger moves, right? But now that I figure out how to use a copier, it just doesn't make sense for me to take bigger moves. I mean, it would make sense, but it adds up either way. So I'm already making like 5 times the profit if I'm just taking one safe entry, and it's basically like a guaranteed win for me. So, and like what Kip said here, you know, like Kip mentioned, yeah, Kip said I would TP out on the pivot, but he would likely have entered on the momentum pullback scalp. Yeah, and that's actually what I would do, Kip. So I know a couple of people in the group that like to hold trades longer. They use these confluences to just hold them longer. For me personally, I would have just entered multiple positions. So instead of me holding on to this and then trying to get like, say, you know, a 500 pip move here, instead of doing that, what I would do is I would enter here for a pivot scalp, get my TP out, then I would enter on the momentum pullback scalp right here, get another TP out. And then if I really wanted to, I could enter down here for a high-low scalp, right? So for me, this would be like 3 wins right there. And then if I wanted to enter for a liquidity push, that'd be 4 wins. So I would make a little less profit because if you would have held on to it, you would have gone in for a full 500. But for this right here, you go for 400 pips because you go for 1, 2, 3, 4 separate trades right there. And that's just the way that I like to trade. I like to be in and out. I don't like to be holding on to something for too long, especially on a Trap Tuesday type of day. So as you guys can see, I mean, the strategies that I create, they're very versatile. It just depends on how you want to apply it. It doesn't matter if you want to apply the momentum pullback scalp, if you want to apply liquidity, if you want to apply the pivot scalp, if you want to apply the high-low scalp, if you want to apply the high-low momentum scalp. I mean, all these strategies work. It's just really up to your preference how you want to, you know, how you want to apply it. So Yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid. I think this strategy is going to be our main strategy all year round. I'm hoping it is because, so for now, I'm not really advertising to the public anymore. If you guys have seen, I don't even tell people to go to the website very much. Every so often, I'll tell people, like, if you're new here, go to the website. But typically, I don't really want to advertise my strategies anymore to the public. I'm fine with sharing it with like a close knit people here, because the problem with me sharing my strategies is that once market makers and like, once people understand what we're doing, I have to make adjustments, and it's just more work on my end because I got to figure out different adjustments to change up certain strategies with regard to TP or understanding where entry point is. And it's just so much work on my end. So for me, I would just like to focus on just one strategy like this, and then take 1 or 2 entries a day, and then just keep stacking up my profits, right? Like, so for example, this week, I've taken this many trades. If you do the math for the week so far, 1,030 plus 1,280 plus 1,280 plus 1,330 plus 730, 730 plus 730. So total profit of about 7,110 for this week so far. I took like 2 trades, right? Today's Tuesday, start of the week. So that's how much I have for the week so far. And then on top of that, from last week, so the week before that, or not the week before that, but just from Friday, this is how much profit I made last week, right? I'm starting to show you guys my weekly profits. I typically don't like to show that because I don't really want to put out there what I'm making. I'm not here to show off. A lot of different people who trade, they want to show off their profits. For me personally, I want to show off my work, right? I want to show you guys that it actually works. I want to see you guys profit off it. My profits are inevitable. They're going to happen because if you guys are winning using my strategies, obviously I'm winning, right? It's like, it wouldn't make sense for people in the group to be profiting and for me not to be profiting. It just doesn't make any sense if we're all applying the same strategies. So I'm not really here to flex on you guys or any of that stuff. Really, I prefer to live a private life. That's why if you guys will see, I'm not really flashy. I kind of just live life. So these are my profits from last week, 17,000. And then you add that with this week's profits so far, 7,110. I'm up like 24,000 in like 2 weeks, which is not bad, right? It's pretty solid. I mean, pretty solid 2 weeks so far. I'm hoping this week will close out pretty nice like last week. I'll try to keep posting up the weekly profits. I'm just not here to really, I don't want to flaunt what I'm making because it's just not me. I just don't like doing that. So yeah, I mean, if there's any other questions that you guys have, I think I pretty much covered. There's not really too much to cover because there's no new strategies. We've pretty much been doing the same thing every day. Liquidity pushes is a topic that a lot of people want to discuss. It's not really something that you can really go back and review though, because I mean, you can review it, but it's not going to be as clear as you would do during the actual live session because the conditions are always going to be a bit different. So one thing to look for here for this week is you guys can see that the first touch is typically a fake out, right? So the first touch over here was a fake out on open. It came back down for the second touch, and that's where it actually worked. So if you guys do plan on taking liquidity pushes this week, I probably would skip the first touch and then come back for the second touch, because you can see over here, fake out, would have lost, second touch, straight to TP. First touch right here, another fake out when it got to that red level. When it came back for the second touch, straight to TP. So which one are you talking about, Maria? So Maria said it was actually the third touch. So I think you're talking about this one right here, but this is actually part of the second touch. So see how it touches right here? The first touch is right here, and then it comes for the second touch. This is basically the same candle. I mean, it's the same movement because it doesn't retrace back up. So when I talk about touches, I'm talking about the first touch, meaning touch and then retracement. So the first one right here, it touched it and then it retraced, would have stopped you out, right? The second touch happened right here and it hits TP. This is going to be considered the first touch for the red line, right? The red pivot right there, or the red liquidity. So right here, it touches it, retraces up, and then it comes back down right here. And then when it touches it the second time, it goes straight to TP. Again, right here, this one touches the blue line, retraces up, comes back down, touches it a second time, straight to TP, right? Comes down right here, touches the red line, retraces up, comes back down, blasts right through to TP. So, yeah, if you guys do plan on taking these liquidity pushes for this week, this is why liquidity is kind of tricky because it's not always going to be the same. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, or actually the past 2 months, liquidity was just on point, never kind of faked out. But today it faked out a lot, faked out on almost every touch. So tomorrow, if you guys do plan on taking liquidity, maybe look for the same pattern. This is something that I started to notice today, is that on Monday, Tuesday, it starts to show a 10. The market shows a 10 with regards to liquidity. And then whatever happens on Monday and Tuesday, it typically continues the rest of the week. So if there's going to be fake outs tomorrow, you know, on that second touch, you can put a pending order there, let it come down, hit it, and then go straight to TP. So. Gotcha. So yeah, Maria got caught in the first touch over here. A lot of people actually got caught in this first touch. The only time I'll take liquidity initially is if there's a bias. Today, there wasn't really much of a bias. If you guys remember, retail sentiment was pretty much flat. It was 50-50. Fundamentals were pretty much flat as well. The only bias that we had was the trend, and the trend's not very reliable. So I wouldn't recommend relying on the trend. If the retail sentiment aligns with the trend, then that's fine. But if it's just the trend, I would, you know, I'd be a little careful. Let's see. Casey said, you see any conflicts today with the 5-minute pullbacks? Personally, I didn't really look, but I know like a couple, I forgot who mentioned it. Somebody in the group mentioned it today about the 5-minute. There was one of the guys, he mentioned that he's been taking the 5 minutes, been hitting, but just looking at it from here. So obviously skip opening candle over here. The price comes down. It's kind of hard to tell here if and when it hits because you can't really rewind it per candle. But I mean, it looks like they do hit. Like for example, here price comes down, retraces right there. Entry would have happened right here. The ATR, you would have been for the 5 minutes a little different because you base it off the ATR. ATR is at 29 right there. So this obviously hits TP, full TP right there. Price comes down again right here, retraces. The other entry would have happened right here. The ATR is at 32. I mean, they all hit pretty smoothly for the most part. Price pulls back right there. Again, another entry at this point. Doesn't look like it fills on this one though. But yeah, this one did blast right through, Casey. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like this one actually fills because it retraces right here. Closest 10th would be at the 30, so it doesn't actually touch it. Let's see, again right here. I mean, there's a lot of entries here that come up. So again, right here, another retracement. This point, entry would be right there at the 400 mark. ATR at this time was 34. I don't know if this one actually played out. So this one actually did play out, but this was like getting close to 8 o'clock. So this was around news time. So I don't know if I would be taking trades around this time. It's like 7:30. If anything, I would have gotten out early for like 100 pips or something like that. I don't know if there's any other entries that came up here. Price continues to drop at this point. Looks like the entry would be at the 60 mark right here. I don't know if it actually fills. Doesn't look like it. Or it does actually, no reverses. Oh, anyways, I don't trade after 8 o'clock. So this right here, and also this candle here was too big. So you guys can see how these big candles fill. Whenever you guys get a big candle like this, it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. It's the same scenario. So if you get a huge candle like this candle was, and this candle was pretty huge. It was about 700 pips almost. For this candle right here, there's one of two things that'll happen. Price will either continue dropping or it'll reverse, right? Doesn't matter if you're on the 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 1 hour, whatever it may be. It's either going to retrace up or it's going to continue dropping. So right here, the next candle retraces up, goes back to the halfway mark, goes up to that point, and it basically just fills this candle right there. And then from there, it either continues pushing up or it comes back down super heavy. I used to apply a strategy like this a long time ago. Whenever I saw like big candles like this, I would look for this movement, either a retracement or a continuation. Yeah, exactly. So Kip said those big candles, you can wait for the pullback at the pivot. Yeah. And that's typically what I would do in the past. I would look for the pullback and then look for entry at one of the pivots. This is actually one way that CSU trades as well. So yeah, let's see. Kip said we have a 90% win rate. One more. Yeah, and most losses should have been avoided. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, Kip. Kip said that's an average payout of 35 to 40K every 10 trading days on all accounts with a full loss. Yeah, like last week, I think I had 1 or 2 losses and I still came out with 17K profit at the end of the week. So, I mean, it's pretty solid for me overall. But yeah, I mean, if you can find consistency and just not lose trades, that's the main key. And I think that's the main thing that a lot of people don't understand is like, it's really not that difficult. It's basic logic, just like understanding how this stuff works and then doing the math to understand, okay, you need X amount of wins to really survive at this, which is very possible. Yeah, exactly. Jay said it's not like you're doing anything you aren't teaching. It's the point. Follow the strategy, get paid, multiply accounts, and repeat. Yeah, it's exactly what I'm doing. I just don't want to flaunt because I'm not trying to be one of those guys that gets robbed out in LA, right? LA is like Wild West right now. I was telling Kip and them like this Kip's coming to visit tomorrow with Casey. LA is like it's a crazy city. If you guys are looking to travel, don't come to LA. LA, like there's so many tourists that just get robbed here all the time. And the crazy thing is that it's not always reported in the news, but it happens super often. So thankfully, I don't live in Los Angeles. I live in Orange County. So it's a bit safer down here. But yeah, that's the main reason why I don't really show like how much I make, because I'm not here to like really flaunt that stuff. I would flaunt it. Like initially when I first became a trader, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like take all these pictures of like money and stuff, right? But then you start to realize that it just makes you a target. So that's why I personally don't care to flaunt stuff like that for the most part. Unless you're living in like Texas, where you can kind of do whatever you want. Actually, no, Texas is still kind of dangerous too, some areas. So all right, guys, I think this might be it. I don't know if you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I think we covered a lot of good stuff today. So if anybody wants to like review this mentoring session, we covered a lot of stuff regarding the momentum pullback scalp strategy for the most part. We also covered the 5-minute right there that Casey mentioned, and a couple other people have been looking at it as well. So if you guys want to apply it, in whatever time frame, and it's really up to you. It's just I prefer the 1 minute because I just want to trade for about an hour a day and be done. If you trade on the 5-minute, that's where it becomes a little tricky. Because so for example, here, see how we marked up all these entries on the 5-minute. If you keep trading after 8 o'clock, which could happen very easily, because if you don't have an entry from like now until 8 or from the live trading session time, then you start to get yourself into a bit of a sticky situation because it'll make you want to keep trading because these entries don't come up as often. Sometimes they'll come up right away. Sometimes they don't even come up at all. So I don't really bother to look at the 5 anymore as much. Yeah, CJ said, glad you survived the earthquake and hurricane this weekend. Yeah, no, the earthquake was crazy. Luckily, the earthquake happened in LA, so I didn't really feel it down here in Orange County. LA is not too far from me, but it's a bit of a distance. It's maybe like a 30-40 minute drive for me. So it happened like farther north from where I'm located. Yeah, exactly. So Kip said the 90% comment was a continuation of discussion regarding multiple. Oh yeah, for multiple accounts. So Kip said basically showing why we were so patient waiting for one good trade. He posted that in some old rules into the Telegram chat. I think you mentioned it over here, Kip, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and take a look. What Kit mentioned over here. Yeah, so I mean, the key thing here, guys, is really just like what I'm doing. If you guys can just stay consistent and you guys can just focus on 1 or 2 good trades a day, I mean, you guys should be pretty solid. We haven't had a loss all week. We had like 1 loss last week, but we made that back pretty quickly because we cut our losses early. Just follow strategies as they're meant to be applied, and don't skip any steps. Just if you follow the steps properly and you don't skip any steps and you do things how they're supposed to be done, you guys should have no problem passing your challenges and getting funded and multiplying the accounts. I mean, right now, I'm not really focused on teaching as much. I'm focused on just finding other prop firms to just add to my copier because it's easy, right? I don't have to do much. I just do what I'm doing already, and then the profits are automatic on the other accounts. So, all right, guys, I think that's it. We've been on this mentoring session for about an hour. If there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to hit me up on Telegram or send me an email. My email is sean@kodikaitrades.com. I'm here to help you guys out. So like whatever you guys need help with, just let me know. Just because I don't feel like teaching doesn't mean that I'm not going to teach, right? I'll still come on these group mentoring sessions, but I just don't want to teach one-on-one anymore. I feel like teaching one-on-one has kind of drained me a little bit because I work with certain people and then they just kind of disappear and it's kind of a waste of time. But if you guys are here on the group mentoring sessions, I'm here to help all you guys out. So yeah, I mean, other than that, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Yeah, Kip over here also mentioned that, especially since there's no time limit with prop firms, you can literally take just what we do during the live. It might take you longer to pass, but eventually, you'll pass. It might take a month, it might take a month and a half, but you will pass. It's almost guaranteed. At this point, I could probably even give a guarantee to people, but I'm not going to do that. Obviously, you're not supposed to give guarantees for trading companies and stuff like that. But we basically we'll have a silent agreement to a guarantee that you guys could and should pass as long as you guys just stick to the game plan. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. If there's any other questions that you guys have, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you guys back here tomorrow for the